The day a billionaire CEO walked into a small, broken-down apartment and asked a struggling single father to marry her, everyone thought they had misunderstood. But when his little daughter looked at the powerful woman in front of her and whispered a few simple words, the CEO's heart completely shattered. She had faced business wars, betrayal, and impossible decisions, but she was not prepared for the innocence of a child who could see the truth adults tried to hide. Before we begin this emotional journey, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of a good heart, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Heart Kindness Tales for more inspiring stories. On a rainy afternoon in the middle of the city, a man named Kellan Ward stood outside a grocery store counting the last few coins in his hand. He stared at the prices on the shelves, quietly calculating what he could afford. His worn jacket was soaked from the rain, his shoes were slowly falling apart, but the one thing he never allowed himself to lose was his pride. Kellan was a single father raising his 7-year-old daughter, Aria. 3 years earlier, his entire world had changed when his wife passed away after a sudden illness. Overnight, he became a father, a mother, a protector, and a provider. He had no time to grieve because a little girl with innocent eyes needed him to keep moving. Every morning, Kellan woke up before sunrise. He prepared Aria's breakfast, packed her lunch, fixed her school uniform, and walked her to school before rushing to his job as a delivery driver. At night, when she slept, he worked extra hours doing whatever small jobs he could find. Life was exhausting, but whenever Aria smiled, he felt like he had everything. He always told her the same thing. Money could disappear, houses could be lost, and people could leave, but kindness and love were things nobody could take away. What Kellan didn't know was that someone powerful had been watching him. Her name was Seraphina Vale, the 32-year-old CEO of Vale International, one of the biggest companies in the country. She was known as a fearless billionaire who could close million-dollar deals with a single phone call. Newspapers called her cold. Competitors called her ruthless. Employees respected her but rarely felt close to her. Seraphina had built an empire from nothing after losing her parents at a young age. She learned early that the world was not gentle, so she became someone who never showed weakness. But everything changed the day she saw Kellan. A few months earlier, her company had been struggling with a charity project that was supposed to help struggling families. The project looked perfect on paper, but something was missing. It had money, organization, and resources, but it lacked something human. Then she visited one of the neighborhoods they were helping and saw Kellan. He was standing outside a community center, giving his own lunch to an elderly man who looked hungry. When someone asked him why he would give away his only meal, Kellan simply smiled and said he would rather go hungry than watch someone else suffer. Seraphina was stunned. She had met thousands of people in her life who wanted something from her. People wanted her money, her influence, her approval. But this man had nothing and still gave. She started quietly learning about him. She discovered he never complained. He never blamed the world. He never told his daughter how difficult life was because he wanted her childhood to be filled with happiness, not burdens. One evening, Seraphina saw something that changed her forever. She was driving past Kellan's apartment building when she noticed Aria sitting outside on the stairs with her father. Kellan was sewing a small tear in her stuffed animal because he couldn't afford to buy a new one. Aria looked at him and said, "Daddy, you always fix everything." Kellan smiled and replied, "I try, sweetheart." She hugged him and said, "I think you're the best dad in the whole world." Seraphina watched from her car, and for the first time in years, she felt something she couldn't control. Loneliness. She had everything people dreamed of having, but she had never experienced that kind of love. Days passed, and Seraphina found herself thinking about them more and more. She didn't understand why a simple father and daughter could affect her so deeply. Finally, she decided to visit them. When Kellan opened the door and saw the billionaire CEO standing there, he was shocked. "Ms. Vale? What are you doing here?" Seraphina looked around the tiny apartment. The furniture was old, the walls needed repairs, but there was warmth everywhere. Pictures of Aria covered the room. Small drawings were taped to the refrigerator. It wasn't a rich home, but it felt alive. "I came because I wanted to talk to you," she said. Kellan became nervous. He thought maybe she had come because of some problem related to the charity project. But Seraphina surprised him. "I want to offer you something." Kellan looked confused. "I can help you financially," she said. "I can give Aria a better life." Kellan's expression changed. "I appreciate that, but I don't want charity." Seraphina respected his answer. "I knew you would say that. That's why I'm not offering charity." She took a deep breath. "I'm asking you to marry me." The room became completely silent. Kellan stared at her, unable to understand what he had just heard. "Marry you?" Seraphina nodded. "I know how strange this sounds. But I don't want a business arrangement. I don't want someone who needs my money. I want someone who reminds me what kindness looks like." Kellan stepped back. "Ms. Vale, you barely know me." "I know enough," she replied. But before Kellan could answer, a small voice came from behind them. Aria had been listening. She walked slowly into the room holding her stuffed animal. She looked at Seraphina with serious eyes. "Are you the lady who wants to marry my daddy?" Seraphina smiled softly. "Yes, I am." Aria looked at her father, then back at Seraphina. Her next words left the billionaire speechless. "If you marry my daddy, does that mean you're going to love him when he's tired?" Seraphina froze. Aria continued. "Because my daddy gets tired a lot. Sometimes he thinks I don't notice. He smiles when he's worried. He says everything is okay even when it's not." Seraphina felt tears forming. The little girl stepped closer. "My daddy doesn't need someone to buy him things. He needs someone who stays." Those simple words broke through the walls Seraphina had built around her heart for years. No employee had ever spoken to her like that. No friend had ever seen the sadness she hid. But a 7-year-old child understood everything. Seraphina knelt down. "Aria, I promise I would never leave when things get hard." The little girl studied her face. "Really? Really?" Aria smiled. "Then I think you can marry him." For the first time in years, Seraphina laughed without pretending. But Kellan was still afraid. He had loved once and lost once. He didn't know if he could risk opening his heart again. "I'm scared," he admitted. Seraphina looked at him. "So am I." That surprised him. "You're scared?" She nodded. "I have spent my whole life building walls because I thought needing people made me weak. But meeting you made me realize that maybe the strongest thing a person can do is care about someone else." Slowly, Kellan began to see that Seraphina wasn't trying to rescue him. She was trying to become part of his world. Over the next few months, everything changed. Seraphina didn't just send help. She showed up. She attended Aria's school events. She helped with homework. She learned how to make pancakes, even though her first attempts were terrible. She sat with Kellan during difficult nights and listened to stories about the woman he lost without feeling threatened by the memories. She didn't replace anyone. She simply added more love to a home that needed it. Kellan also changed Seraphina's life. The woman who once spent every night alone in a luxury apartment began enjoying simple moments. Watching cartoons with Aria. Walking in the park. Eating homemade meals. Laughing at small things. People at her company noticed. The CEO who once seemed impossible to reach had become warmer. One day, a business partner asked her what caused such a change. Seraphina smiled and said, "A little girl taught me that a family isn't built by money. It's built by showing up. A year later, Kellan and Seraphina finally stood together in front of their loved ones. Aria carried the rings. Before the ceremony began, she whispered to Seraphina, "Thank you for choosing my daddy." Seraphina smiled through tears. "No, sweetheart. Thank you for choosing me." Their marriage wasn't perfect. They still had struggles. They still disagreed. They still had hard days. But every night, they remembered the promise that started everything. Stay when it's hard. Love when it's difficult. And never forget the small moments that matter. Kellan once believed he had lost his chance at happiness. Seraphina once believed success meant never needing anyone. But a little girl's innocent heart showed them both that sometimes the greatest miracles arrive in the most unexpected ways. If this story touched your heart, please support this video by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing to Heart Kindness Tales. Your support helps bring more emotional stories of hope and kindness to others. And before the story ends, I have one special request. Comment, "Second chances are beautiful," if you believe everyone deserves a chance to find love, family, and happiness. Because sometimes, the person who saves your heart isn't the one who has everything, it's the one who teaches you what truly matters.